something to surprise RNG and really surprise us as well. So we jump into draft, going to catch up with Zaya, Lissandra, Akali, and Heimerdinger. RNG, no bravado, no confidence, no overconfidence, letting Heimer through at all today.
Yeah, so if it's the Tahm Kench, it's the same 3 bans that they used in both of their wins. There is potential for them to just make it about the Alistar. But with Urgot banned from G2, that's a surprising one for me, because I feel like that is a ban that RNG wants to generally throw out.
Nah, the reason why they're throwing out the Urgot ban is because I think RNG are going to ban away the Alistar. So if that's the case and G2 bans something else, then RNG can get a lot of counter pick options available to them. Oh, they can ban... Wait, what am I thinking of myself?
But then you just ban Tahm Kench's RNG and they take one and you trade for the other, right?
Yeah,
so
I suppose.
I still feel like it's kind of strange. And Poppy is up. You just lost this matchup very hard, so I don't love the draft choice, but certainly we'll see where G2 goes from here and if they can get, maybe more of a split push style mid lane.
I still like the fact that Ming is being taken off the Alistar. We saw last game how confident he is on the champion, and with Tahm Kench still available, I think it's a fine pick. Interestingly, RNG putting more priority on the Gragas, trying to take that away from Jankos. Perhaps also, never mind, of course, he's going to go straight back to the Taliyah, which he's had so much success on already throughout this series.
I wonder if RNG is thinking about taking away Tahm Kench. They're not going to do it just yet, and I feel like that means it's probably going to G2 here, and that has been such a big pick for VODs, who has been really good being able to get out to the side lanes. And if you grab Tahm Kench and Nocturne here, yeah, I mean, like, that is super enabling for your split push.
Thing is, you have to think that RNG somewhat anticipated with the Taliyah. It is a flex, of course. Can go mid or jungle. Gragas can go jungle or support as well. Just throwing it out there as an idea. But yes, the Nocturne and the TK, those are tools that G2 love to use and benefit their playstyle.
Yeah, and I also think that with Aurelia still being open, G2 have a lot of options right now. You've got to remember that G2 are not afraid to play AP champions down bot. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like a Brand Tahm Kench lane, just so that Perkz could play Aurelia in the middle lane. And with still a lot of options available, you're seeing the power of blue side come into effect once more. RNG, though, I'm expecting this Gragas to be in the bot lane because I think they predicted the Tahm Kench and they want something that can, once you try to gobble someone up, you can then knock them back into the team. And I think Gragas is considered a pretty solid pick into the Tahm.
Exactly. I mean, we saw how the Rakan was not really able to do too much into the Tahm Kench. As you say, though, if you body slam the AD, they get eaten up, you can ult them both back in, and certainly is a very strong option there. A lot of focus now down onto Hjarden. Double AD bans out. This does lend itself to kind of the story you were talking about. If they want to go to open up Perkz having an AD mid laner, you could pick something like Brand here, because Kai'Sa's off the table, Varus off the table. There's not a lot of AP bot laners besides the kind of full-on mages.
And Uzi just flicking through all the available AD carries at his disposal. Looks like he's going to go back towards lane dominance that we saw earlier on in this series. Very strong during the laning phase, but Uzi, I think, is challenging Hjarden's champ pool here. He's saying, you know what, I'm expecting your final comfort to be something like the Sivir, and I reckon that if I pick Lucian, you're going to pick that as an answer to it.
Question is, what does that do then for the rest of the lane? Now we see the Rise locked in for Perkz. This is a signature champion for Perkz. He has played this more than any other, and definitely a lot on international stages as well, and the composition will be rounded out with the Sivir.
I really love the comp here from G2. This is their style, right? If you're going to go down swinging. I think this is your best chance of forcing a game 5. You have Rise in the side lanes. You have Nocturne, Tahm Kench, Rise all with globals and semi-globals. You have the Aatrox who can certainly split push as well. Sivir is fantastic at holding that mid lane to be able to actually provide with a lot of wave clear. So this is something where they can hard commit to a 1-3-1, and that is the style that G2 has been best at. And I've got to say, I'm a little surprised by the Galio just because of the interactions with Nocturne. We have seen Galio sometimes really struggle to use that ult defensively into the Nocturne, and it may signify rather that they want to go aggressive.
To me, this just implies that RNG are looking to play the way in which they always play, which is heavily towards bot lane. Kind of emulate the snowball that they had in game 1, which is win your 2 versus 2, keep piling members down towards the bot side of the map.
3 versus 2, 4 versus 2.
Whatever, yeah.
Win the bottom lane.
Yes, and the thing is, the Sivir matchup is already a really bad one. But it looks like that they might actually be changing things up, taking the Rise out of the mid lane and putting it up towards the top side into the Poppy. I personally think it's a lot harder for Wunder to have pressure when he's on champions like Ryze. It takes a lot more time to ramp up, but I do understand that from a matchup perspective, putting AD into the Galio and putting AP into the Poppy is definitely much more favorable for the G2 solo lane.
Exactly, and if you were to have a repeat of last game, where bottom lane is falling behind and your top lane is losing, you're not ever going to get to the stage where you need to be for G2. So I think picking more for the winning matchups in the solo lanes, wait for Nocturne to get 6, try to snowball those side lanes, is a solid win condition.
Well, let's see if Jankos can help out Perkz and wonder whether or not he can shut down RNG. Big smiles on the faces of G2 Esports. This is potentially the final game for G2 as an organization at Worlds. They've made quarterfinals, top 8 in the World Championship, and Royal never give up. Are one win away from advancing to the semifinals in a showdown with Invictus Gaming. Of course, this game is taking place in Busan, and just one little tidbit. If RNG close this series out, Uzi will then make his 4th appearance in a semifinal at the World Championship, tying the record with Faker. And that is what Uzi and the rest of RNG are fighting for, making their way towards the Golden Road, making their way towards winning every single tournament they've attended this year.
Yeah, and he could already stamp his name in the history books of League of Legends if he hasn't done so already, as we see a bit of skirmishing in this very early game.
A quick look at how much pressure Perkz is under. Takes a couple of shots from that threaded volley. But this time around, no, all-in shenanigans at level 1. Hops over the wall. RNG are playing forward, so red side to blue side. That's similar to the previous game.
Now, in terms of where we're looking for both these teams to play around, I kind of see how, so far in this early game, I expect Uzi and Ming to have full control over the bot side of the map. Lucian extremely strong at being able to trade against the Sivir due to her inability to really trade with many AD carries in the early levels, and outside of spell sheeting the Q, which you can possibly do, because of the passive proc that he has, he just does so much damage and is able to often out-trade. Hyanan will be running the teleport so that he can kind of afford to take the damage, TP back in, but it does mean that he loses that damage reduction summon spell, given that Wadid has gone for heal, and there's no exhaust or ignite in that bomb.
Going to be very impactful, especially if the game continues to play out, and whether or not G2 can actually then move Hyan and Sivir around to play that wave clear duty. We've talked a lot about the solo lanes versus the duo lane. I actually have some numbers for you from G2's perspective, what the CS difference is between top, mid, and duo. And when I get the graphics team to pull this up, take a look at this. In the top, even with that previous game, Wonder still is on average plus 10 CS. Perkz on average plus 18 CS. Hyanan on average minus 34. It is that stark day-night difference in how these teams play the game.
Yeah, I mean, that really does illustrate where the strengths of the teams are, where they focus a lot of their resources, and it's pretty frightening to see such insane advantages being built up by Uzi.
Instant level 2 engage from Ming. He throws down the flash. There's a devour from Wadid. Manages to spit Hyanan out. Now Ming is in a little bit of trouble. Uzi dashes away. The boomerang blade will not find its target. Look like Wadid and Hyanan very close to level 2 as well.
So we already talked about the skirmishing, and you can see how strong this duo is for RNG, but they actually have very little vision towards the bot side of the map, and Jankos could look for an early gang to try and put them behind. And remember that Caster and Uzi are the main damage dealers for this team, and if they fall behind, that means that RNG lose a lot of damage.
You also got to remember, it's both summoners down for Ming, and he's got to be a little bit careful here.
Oh, here comes Jankos. First blood is available. Defensive flash from Uzi. Teleport being channeled. It looks like Let Me was starting that one, and he cancels it to get some of the cooldown back.
I actually think G2 could commit it there. I mean, Wadid had his flash up. Ming has none. There's 3 stacks on him. Yeah, Let Me is teleporting in, but Wonder can actually flash and interrupt that with the Rune Prison. I think that could have been a first blood for G2.
Overall, though, they still come out ahead, given that the flash is down for Uzi. They get the TP out from Let Me, and you can see that Wonder's generating a lot of pressure in that top side of the map. So overall, a pretty advantageous trade, while Perkz does lose his flash in the middle lane.
Oh, very nice there, Jankos using that spell shield just in case he's going to get caught by the seismic shove. But G2 Esports, they're fending off the early players. We saw Ming and Uzi go all the way forward. They're flashless in the bottom lane. Xiaohu gets uninterrupted on that punch, so he's not going to be at risk from being caught by Jankos. And as it stands at 4 minutes, there has already been a significant amount of skirmish. Yeah,
there certainly has. And it's going to be a really rough lane for Letme going up against the Ryze in these early levels. And now you actually spent your TP to try to defend the bot lane. So not only is he already way behind, he's going to get even more behind off of a base.
And as we've said, 3 versus 2, 4 versus 2, as many people in the bottom lane as possible. Wadid still holding on to his flash. That was so cheeky. The tongue lashing onto Ming will not hold him in place long enough to get the kill, but such a good play from Wadid.
You can't help but feel bad for the G2 bot lane. Often they get put into difficult matchups, and then so many junglers like to attack them. When you're going up against Uzi and Ming, this is a duo that receives so much support. They get forced away from the tower. Hyun and TP backs in though. And on the bright side, they're not at such a big deficit that Uzi is snowballing out of control.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Uzi's going to pick up some of this farm and get further ahead, but it's only a couple CS when they actually go back to base and get those buys. So G2 have got to be happy with the performance out of their bot lane when you consider how far ahead the top lane is, especially. The fact that Letme TP'd down there, got nothing from it. You know, he did cancel it, yes, but that meant he gets a much worse base. The lane is pushing against him, and Wonder already has his tier.
Yeah, very good, and this is exactly what G2 need. Exactly what their team composition also wants to do. Get themselves into an even position in the mid game and set up for the 1-3-1. Now, Perks is flashless, remember. Insta-taunt from Xiaohu. The seismic shove doesn't find his target, though, and Perks escapes with his life. If that skill shot landed, that would have been first blood.
Very clean sidestep there from the mid laner of G2. He's able to avoid death once again as Xiaohu pushes in that lane. Doesn't have the teleport available, but he is now level 6. The potential for a bot lane play is available. He's pushed Perks underneath his tower. He can generate that pressure and move down hit as G2's bot pushes them back in.
All right, spell shield used there by Hyonin. He's 6 CS down in lane. The wave is pushing towards Uzi. Perks still yet to leave mid lane. He does not have access to that teleport, unlike Uzi and Hyonin. Instead, Jankos comes in just to help shove this wave out, not really for gank attempt, and this will allow Perks to get back.
Exactly, he just wants to go for that reset, doesn't have TP like Xiaohu does, so we'll be getting back to base. Yes, he was pressured pretty heavily, but going to be happy to have gotten through that laning phase with a couple of visits from Karsa. He's even on farm, he hasn't gone down. Things starting out on a much better foot this game for G2.
Okay, so I'm excited. I'm an EU cast guy. I want to see what G2 can do. So Vedius, talk me through where the pressure is. We know if G2 can get to 1-3-1, they can do well, but how does RNG stop them with this composition?
So, because they've drafted Lucian again, who will eventually get outscaled by the Sivir, we need to see RNG trying to force plays down towards the bot side of the map. The problem they have is Jankos level 6 to the level 4 of Karsa, and there's no flash on top of Uzi. So Jankos actually maintains full control over the bot side thanks to the vision that they've invested. Hook should be able to generate a little more pressure now that he's actually gone back to base. And RNG's win condition early on of trying to snowball this bot lane kind of fell apart after they invested a couple of ganks. They invested that all in level 2 and they weren't able to convert it into money.
Yeah, it really has. And I mean, the fact that Jankos had just been power farming while Karsa was attempting these ganks that didn't actually pay off is looking really good for G2. You also always have to take in consideration, in a tank matchup in the top lane, he has to build MR to survive the Ryze. Everyone else is physical damage, so it becomes a difficult time itemizing for Letme.
And that's a good sign if you're a G2 fan. And if you're a fan of Silver Scrapes in Game 5s.
Who isn't?
Is
Jankos.
a few seconds away from flash. Seismic shove comes in. Here comes a paranoia. The first target is Xiaohu. First blood picked up by Perks. Ming has already roamed though. The Infernal Chains flashed away from by Karsa, and Perks with the World Ender on is still running for his life. Now Ming with some support from Karsa is coming in. The tension is turned back around. Wadid is followed up, and this will be another kill for G2. It lands in Perks' pockets. Gyanen's joined the fight as well, and they're going to push onto this mid tower.
And now it's G2 that find themselves early. Look at Letme though, he's very low, doesn't know Ryze in the bush.
Oh, manages to get the stun against the wall. This allows Letme to escape, and Wonder doesn't chase. 2-0 and 2,000 gold up for G2 Esports.
Yeah, Perks just gets so much out of that. Not only is it the first blood, Ming just kind of ran it down and gave over another kill over to Perks there, and he's going to be sitting in such a good position here against the Galio in our Acer Predator replay.
Now remember that for G2, they just want to play around their solo laners. Ultimately, that Civ is going to be valuable later, but because of how difficult it is for RNG to get Uzi ahead given the state he's in, Casa actually tries to go mid to punish Perks, but the ultimate from Jankos was enough to turn the gank in G2's favor, and then Ming just overextends. He thinks that maybe he can get a kill back onto Jankos, but the heal comes through from Wadid. He also gobbles his jungler up to safety, and G2 now sit with a 2,500 gold lead only 9 minutes into this game.
And look at the CS differences. Plus 30 in the top lane and a level advantage. Jankos level 7. Tukasa's level 6, his paranoia, game-changing, plus 10 difference in CS and the 2 kills for Perks in the mid lane.
He's good.
There's even a teleport to push RNG away from the turret. Lemmy is sticking around. Keep in mind that Uzi and Ming are in the top outer, so this is a little bit of a race as Lemmy may want to commit with the Keeper's verdict. This will buy some time. What it is the target, he gets knocked up into the air. The tower's still standing. RNG are pushing into the top lane, and Fionin uses the spell shield flawlessly. Gets out of range of the taunt. Tower first blood still goes to G2, and they get all the ultimates.
They're up 3K before 10 minutes. This game, you have to say, is night and day from the last one. Winning solo lanes drafted for G2, and the bottom lane absorbing all the pressure.
Goodbye, Casa! He just gets solo killed by Jankos. A full rotation with the skirmishes, and does his job.
Casa meets his worst nightmare as he walks into the jungle, and there is a level 8 Nocturne in front of his face. No flash available, he ends up dropping, and now Jankos' impact is probably the most felt that it has been so far this series.
I mean, this is starting to look ugly for RNG. They are getting run over across the map here. You look at the farm differences, the experience differences in some of these lanes. Carson's down 2.5 levels almost to Jankos.
And I want to backtrack to kind of how these drafts unfolded, because RNG again went for a lane-dominant bot lane with the intent of playing towards the bot side of the map. They also drafted the Poppy as a means to shut down the Aatrox, but G2, not only did their duo play phenomenally in surviving all that pressure and even helped secure the first tower of the game, but G2's flexibility in their solo lane is to swap the Rise up the top and the Aatrox to mid has allowed Perks to build up a huge solo lead, has allowed Wonder to build up a huge solo lead, and now G2 Esports sits with a 2.6k gold lead 11 minutes in against RNG.
There is no such thing as a super team. There is no such thing as an unstoppable team at this World Championship. And G2 Esports is now giving it to RNG. The Infernal Chains comes back. Perks is unable to find the kill. He committed the flash, but look at the pressure. With Casa left the lane, the rest of G2 are pushing down middle. Hashtag 10 games the dream. G2 Esports have a fantastic lead with a composition that can suffocate RNG and take control of the Rift like they've already done this series.
They definitely do. You have to give some credit, though, to Ming. It was a nice disengaging ultimate, and that is Perks with his ult and both summoners down. So there are windows of opportunity where RNG will be able to look for the counterpunch and try to find their moments, but certainly G2 have full control. They have the farm and side lane advantages, and they just need to keep playing this style. You don't need to overforce. You have really strong solo laners who can go to your 1-3-1 condition. Even though you're really far ahead now, you don't need to end the game in the next 10 minutes.
And I kind of want to go back to what you were talking about earlier, Azelle, which is the night and day difference between last game and this game. When we think about it, G2 have gotten their perfect style this game. Strong solo laners, large jungle impact, bot lane doing extremely well in the 2 versus 2. Whereas last time, RNG got their perfect style, and now we're seeing what these teams are capable of when they play at full potential. The G2 now set up to secure a mid lane tower.
Worlds 2018 defined by play your game. That is what has really shone through, and I just think this Tom Kinch pick for Wadid, again, paying dividends. We saw how impactful it was in the early dives with Devour, saving Hyonin from the 2v2 again, and it is one of, if not his best champion.
And now we see G2 move into the 1-3-1. Perks is up in the top lane, Wonder is pushing down bot, and these solo laners are reaching a point where it becomes a lot harder for RNG to start forcing plays.
I'm looking at the player cams, and as it's flicking through, G2 are all smiles. They're laughing at times. And wouldn't know that this is a quarterfinal life or death match, but of course when the team has a significant advantage like this, there is a little less pressure on you.
And honestly, that's the kind of attitude I think you want to see. I think it's not about not taking it serious. It's about being relaxed. It's about being in your element. You can be having fun playing the game, focusing and playing your best style of game when you're not feeling overly pressured, when you're not worrying too much about what your opponents are going to do and thinking more about what you need to do.
And for RNG, how they come back into this game is finding that perfect team fight.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. They're at a huge deficit right now. Their opportunities and ability to force a fight is limited. Because even now, if they force a fight right now, they lose. Like, G2 is that much stronger, and even if their composition isn't arguably designed for 5v5, you still have a 1-item Sivir, a 1.5-item Aatrox. G2 are more than happy to take that fight, so RNG need to find a punish or the perfect fight.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really tough to find with both the Nocturne and the Aatrox so far ahead. You can essentially just run straight at Uzi, and yes, there is a Galio, but you just have to buy time. You just have to push him out of the fight, and that gives enough time, I think, for the Ryze and for the Sivir to really punch through the rest of the members. So we'll see if RNG, can find that perfect fight, because it's looking pretty tough.
Do you think it's fair to say that even if RNG also find that fight to claw back the goal deficit, they need to accelerate quickly? When we look at some of the scaling, we look at the fact that Ryze, Aatrox, Sivir, if a game does go very late, I kind of prefer some of those carries into the likes of the Poppy and the Gragas, who I think can get melted through.
I mean, 3-item Lucian, 3-item Sivir. I kind of weigh more towards the Sivir in a team fight. But the 2-item Lucian is the key point for RNG. And once he completes his Black Cleaver, that's kind of the window that I'm looking at for RNG. But here we go, another fight.
All right, Parano's already thrown down and is already a kill to Uzi. Jankos has soloed him with a little bit of help from Perkz. Perkz actually got the killing spree. Realm Warpers unfortunately skipped out on his. Perkz and Jankos are running up top. Perkz has got himself one. Now Ming forced to flash over the wall. Here comes Wonder. He flashes over, looking for the Rune Prison. That's going to be a lockdown onto Ming, and the kill secures available. Picked up by Wonder. That's 3 quick kills. Perkz isn't done yet. Finally forced to escape with the Devour.
And we talked about how RNG, if they looked for a fight now, they would lose it. They just did. G2 dismantled RNG, who tried to collapse onto G2 in the top lane, and it ends up being 3 kills for 0.
This is huge for G2 here, getting so many kills there, really expanding the gold lead. Up over 6K, they're going to take another turret here in the mid lane, and they have a stranglehold on this game.
4 towers to 1, 6 kills to 0. I will take that back. 3 towers to 1 as the inner turret survives by the skin of its teeth, but 4-0 on this Aatrox. 1-0-3 on Jankos' Nocturne. With the squishy targets, he just kills them in one rotation.
Yeah, I mean, straight in onto Uzi. These guys are so fed. He's just getting absolutely destroyed, and with fights like these, you're starting to think that upset, no matter how unlikely you thought coming into this series, is becoming more and more and more likely, as G2 are just looking incredible in this game.
And Jankos was sat on a ward for that whole thing, yet they still commit to it. They think, you know what, Aatrox is far enough away that we can get the collapse. And Jankos is like, I see Uzi, I kill Uzi. And so very quickly, he just shuts him down. Beautiful stuff there from G2. Great game so far.
I mean, RNG may have thought that they could turn that fight around. Galio was close by. Maybe you think, hey, this is our opportunity. Bait them in. But there were so many G2 members in the area, perhaps, though they saw the Nocturne, they didn't realize who else could really arrive at the fight.
It's unbelievable that for the 4th game this series, the team on the blue side seems to get an advantageous draft that just seems to work out absolutely in their favor.
Yeah, blue side just seems to be the winning side so far in this series. And if G2 are able to win this, and if RNG selects blue, I imagine many fans start to get worried, but that's still a way away, as G2 right now setting up around this Baron, which hasn't even spawned yet.
Unbelievable stuff. Xiaohu's waiting for a target to jump onto with that Galio ultimate, while Wonder is backing away. Keep looking at the minimap, keep looking at where the vision lines are, where the minions are. For the time being, Perkz is shoved in top. Remember, no teleport for him. So Wonder and Kiana are the 2 teleport users, as Uzi will get a very good Culling. Here comes Jankos, defensive flash from Uzi. Realm Wolf brings Wonder in, and the Poppycopter sends him out. Xiaohu's ultimate comes down. RNG don't lose anybody, but they are retreating.
Yeah, they don't lose anyone, but it's a full-on disengage there, and maybe they could have tried to get something done on Hjarnan, who was very, very low. They weren't sure, though, with the Nocturne ultimate and the craziness there, who else could be coming in, and that's why I think they commit the Galio ult even when the fight was almost over.
What's impressive to me is the fact that G2 had pushing top, pushing bot, and they're still able to engage in mid in what initially looked like a 3 versus 3, and this is not the situation RNG want to find themselves in. They're the ones that want to be having that priority, being able to force plays, but due to such a massive deficit that they find themselves in, every play they make, G2 has an answer.
I mean, Perkz is 3K ahead. It's absurd. You just look at the itemization across that mid lane there, and he is feeling so, so good.
Yeah, the rest of Perkz, G2 squad rather, behind Perkz feeling very happy. This game, 2,700 gold lead at 15 minutes. The previous gold deficit for RNG was 1,000 gold fewer. Now the world ender from Perkz will buy some time, but it may not be enough. Perkz may give the first death up. Whoa, he turns it back around onto Karsa in a 1v3. Manages to get the kill. Now here comes Wadid. The Abyssal Voyage Devour keeps the captain alive. The man in the mid lane for G2 Esports at 5-0.
He just fights his way out of the gank. They think they have him corralled there, and he just turns around and takes him down 5-0. What an insane game.
And Perkz stays true to Aatrox's nature. Who can run when you can fight instead? And when he sees himself in a 2 versus 1, with a teleport coming in, with even Ning looking for the collapse, he knows how squishy Karsa is. He flashes on top of him and goes for the execute. Perkz made the huge outplay in game 2. He's doing it again in game 3. And so far, G2 still yet to die in this game.
And you gotta say, RNG's plays are starting to reek a bit of desperation. They are feeling like they need to force plays. They need to get picks.
Think back to the music video. Rise. Prove yourself and rise. Perkz was the first victim on the path to the Summoners Cup. And Perkz right now is stepping up and cheering for all of the European LCS fans to gather behind him. It's an 8,000, 9,000 gold lead. Baron is now alive, but for G2, they have all the tools, they have the lead that they need, and it is up to them to close this out and then force the decider game. That is just to equalize the series, and we have to go the distance potentially in both quarterfinals today.
So we now hit the 21-minute mark. I never thought that I would be saying that 21 minutes into the game, G2 Esports have an 8,000 gold lead over Royal Never Give Up, the defending MSI champions, the team that was expected to have the golden year, and while they are still on track to do it, while there still is, at the very least, one game and the potential comeback in this game, RNG are being pushed to the brink by G2.
Well, Yana's going to get devoured up. The lights go out immediately as Jankos decides to throw down the paranoia. There was no follow-up on the secondary cast, though, and Perkz is just going to be farming up and using World Ender to its absolute maximum potential. Karsa, I don't think you want another fight there, buddy. Last time he tried, he came off worse for wear, and the rest of G2 are responding, making their way up as Abyssal Voyage is available.
Yeah, he's seen that show before, and it didn't end well for him as he gets practically one hit by the third Q from Perkz last time around. He's got to be really, really careful, but it was good defensive ult usage from Jankos. When RNG is going for these plays, when they're trying to make something happen, even just dropping that defensively means, all right, well now Galio can't ult in very likely. Now it's very hard for RNG to actually continue the fight, to even track where the G2 members are, and there's such small windows for them to get anything done already.
Well, take a look at this. Perkz and Jankos being somewhat closed off. Blue buff, I think, secured by Jankos there as he was on the way out and under pressure from RNG. While RNG show their faces in the left-hand quadrant of the Rift, Wonder is able to shove up the minion wave. He's got himself an 80 CS advantage over Let Me. This time around, it's Xiaohu that is going to be playing defensive duty. He's got the teleport available. Perkz is going to be looking for the 1v2. Karsa knows he simply cannot stand toe-to-toe with him.
Perkz walks in, says, I'm afraid this area is off limits. RNG refused to listen to Perkz, and instead they were escorted off the premises. Now, that's the flash down from Karsa. All 3 lanes are once again being pushed in for G2. They can set up all their vision around the top side, and they can either go for the Baron, or they can just look to die.
Well, let's take a look. The inner turret is the focus. Ming's body slam does not find its target, but the barrel does. Seismic Shove is also dodged away from, as Wadid's used to devour. It's on cooldown. World Ender's up and available for Perkz. Perks. He goes into the 1v3. He's starting to resurrect as here comes Xiaohu. Throws down the ultimate, but Wonder kicks him out the fight where he stands. Ming is trying to kill Perks with the stopwatch, buys enough time for support to come. Thus far it's a 1-for-2 and Wonder cleans house. Let me try to get Hyanin, but there's not enough damage. There's not enough time. There's not enough Royal Never Give Up to stop G2.
And G2 stomp RNG in a huge team fight that will result in a Baron. Perks gives up his life for the team, and it is everything that they could want as they look to take RNG to match point.
And you've got to think this is going to be it. This is the push in which they can close out this game. Already 10,000 gold ahead. 2 dragons to their name. Insanely fed at this point. They are looking to have a date with history here. They are looking to knock out the last remaining favorite from this tournament.
And the setup looks really promising here from RNG, but unfortunately the backline is zoned away entirely by Perks alone. Xiaohu tries to zone off, but he's dying so much earlier. Wonder doesn't even join the fight, but the moment that he does is when this team fight falls apart. Hyanen's positioning was good, being able to deal a lot of AoE damage to both Uzi and Kasa, but ultimately this fight evolves into Uzi can't get in. Uzi cannot deal damage. And G2 have 4, arguably 5 damage dealers.
This is a team and an organization that for the most part has struggled on the international stage. Yes, they had an MSI performance that was very good, but for the longest time in this team's history, they couldn't get out of groups at Worlds.
Just be blunt. They've sucked at Worlds.
Thank you, okay.
They have sucked.
I'll leave it to you to say that one. And this time around, when the expectations were so different, G2 were massive, massive underdogs. They're on the cusp of forcing a game 5 and on the verge of making history.
Exactly that. It was against Team WE at MSI in 2017 that many expected them not to be able to beat, yet they made the upset happen in 3-1 fashion. Now they're going up against RNG, one of the heavy favorites of the tournament, and they are looking to take them to match point. And that doesn't mean the series is over yet, but having this kind of a game after what Game 3 was is a huge confidence booster for G2.
Imagine the weight of expectations on the RNG shoulders with all of LPL behind them. Years and years of fandom for Uzi and the rest of RNG. Have to spare a thought for how much that's going to weigh on them going into potentially Game 5.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, especially coming out of a game like this, but they are going to try to look for another play. They don't want to give up on this game just yet. It will take a miracle, but RNG are still willing to fight for that. You have to look over at Ming, though. I think it has to be an engage from the Gragas. You need to catch a carry. You need to kill someone right off the bat.
All right, G2, they've been spreading their numbers thin, pushing in 3 lanes at the same time. It allowed RNG to try and jump onto Hyanin and what did. That's why the Abyssal Voyage is on cooldown. With Abyssal Voyage on cooldown, it means there's no support in the top lane. But the Paranoia has cut off any sort of visibility. 2 towers fall while RNG are blinded by the darkness. Hyanin throws down the ultimate and tries to turn it back around as Wonder is collapsed on by Letme and Xiaohu. RNG are trying to find targets, but it's slippery, and there's nobody from G2 sticking around long enough to go down. Now this is an inhibitor in middle gonna fall, inhibitor in bottom gonna fall. The tower in the top lane is going down as well. G2 have absolute control of the map.
Yeah, and it looks like they should just close it out, honestly, with this Baron. They could reset, but I don't even know if they need to. They will make the call to go back. I think because the Infernal is spawning, they want to, again, make sure there's no way to lose this game. With 2 inhibitors down, you're playing 1-3-1. You can play it very safe. You can make sure there's no chance that RNG can even get an attempt at a team fight.
I see all the gold that G2 was sitting on, like 3-4 members were sitting on about 2K. So I think they just wanted to go back to base, get rid of that money, pick up some more items, and guarantee a cleaner win as RNG are pushed back far into their base and are just left on the defense.
I mean, look at the solo lane gold. It's 5K ahead for both Perks and Wonder. That's absurd. Like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. They're too far ahead.
Unbelievable. 2.5 games ago, I asked you, gentlemen, do you believe? And G2's answering with a resounding yes. A resounding, we will have one more fight. 2 inhibitors are down. G2 have spent all the money they needed. They picked up the Infernal as well. And it's just a matter of time until they attempt a final siege with a 15,000 gold lead.
And it's such a great day for League of Legends because we've had so many surprises. You know, you've heard many Worlds combatants say that this is the year that anything can happen, and even the fact that G2 can push RNG to a Game 5 after the year that this organization has had is still an achievement in its own right.
I didn't believe it. I saw the first quarterfinal result and I still didn't believe this is the year of underdogs, this is the year of upsets. We're about to get into Game 5 and I'm starting to believe. Take a look at that. The Devour comes up, Wonder and Perks. The solo lane is for G2. They push down onto the first Nexus turret. Jankos jumps inside the base. Paranoia is available to him. He can switch off the lights at any given time. The pressure is on RNG to find a way back into this game, to find a way to close the series out. Wonder flashes for his life as Ming's unable to get the barrel down. Xiaohu force a flash defensively as the third inhibitor falls in the back end. Perks blows up Ming. RNG are routed and running for their lives as Jankos and Kianan take down the last Nexus turret. The Nexus will be the focus as RNG are trying to push back, trying to stall this out. The Nexus is going down, and ladies and gentlemen, this is going all the way. Do you believe G2 versus RNG in Game 5?
Such a big win for G2 as RNG are pushed back. They only found a single kill in that game. And you think about the series as a whole, RNG had probably the cleanest game of their series in Game 3. They had their perfect comp, they had comfort picks across the board, everything just looked on point. And then coming into Game 4, we're like, well, you know, G2, you know, you didn't look great, things are looking dire, maybe you should try going back, but I was kind of the opinion that was it, 3-1. And then they get comfort picks, like Kianan and Wood did survive the 2v2, and the solo laners do what they've done all tournament long. I certainly was not expecting such a convincing Game 4.
I mean, not that dominant. You know, maybe they forced a Game 5, but 15-1, they were nearly 20,000 gold ahead by the end of that game. That was a shellacking. They got blasted. I mean, RNG, we just watched them get slammed by G2, and we're in Game 5.
I have a question that you're not going to be able to answer, but who stomped whom harder? RNG or G2 in Game 3 or 4? We're going to find out what the analyst thinks about that Game 4 victory, though, as we head to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
G2.
Game 4.
100% G2.
I was going to ask. I didn't even have to re-ask it for you. Quick shot. Thank you very much, gentlemen. 2-2. What?
Yes.
We're tied up. Silver Scrapes again. G2 pushing RNG to the limit. Both of our tournament favorites have gone to Game 5. Blue side winning all 4 games.
Red side really sucked.
Let's dive into this draft. I know we have some strong feelings about the way that RNG went about it.
I am happy that we are going to Game 5, but I'm also flabbergasted that they didn't ban Tahm Kench, because it's not like they don't understand it's effective. They ban it when they're on blue side.
Right.
They're not worried about Yarn and Alistair.
Definitely not
Alistair. So what are they doing?
Okay, let's summarize very quickly what ended up happening in the draft. RNG had 2 losing solo lanes, also gave away Tahm Kench Nocturne, obviously from mid lane to side lane globals, against the best 1-3-1 team at the tournament. So you've managed on red side with counter picks
to give them the perfect composition.
to actually lose your solo laners and give them the perfect comp. And the problem for RNG is they seem so limited in what they want to draft for Xiaohu and Let Me, because they have this mindset that, ooh, we must protect Uzi. All our other lanes can just try and go even, but Uzi, he needs to win his lane. And when Uzi doesn't win his lane really hard, the whole thing falls apart.
But that's what kills me. It's like not only the fact that G2 got the perfect G2 composition, but the fact then that Uzi and RNG are just like, and Lucian. We'll draft no late game insurance policy. So if it doesn't work in lane phase, burn it all to the ground.
Yeah, and sometimes this can come across as like hindsight is 20/20 analysis.
Absolutely.
As this was happening, all of us were completely against this. You can check
I tweeted
Twitter, Frostgreen's Twitter. This was a flabbergasting draft from RNG.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that G2 isn't an elite team when they have their champions. It's just the question we keep saying of there's only so many of them, and I think you can actually ban them out.
I keep saying this. I think G2 are the team that relies the most on their draft compared to any team out of the top 8 teams we have here at Worlds. Because when they get their 1-3-1 setup, they are so clean. Like, they just know exactly how to play around Perkz and Wonder so effectively. And when they have Tahm Kench, they know how to survive in the bot lane, even if you are going to get towered or ganked. And that is why, when they get this kind of draft, they look scary. But game 3, when they get a teamfight draft, 25-minute win for RNG. Nothing G2 can do.
You had a small point there?
I was just saying, it's not even just the Tahm Kench and the ability to absorb pressure bottom. It's how well that Tahm Kench works around Perkz and Wonder, constantly showing up in those side lanes.
Now, narrow conditions for G2 in the draft, but when they get those champions, boy, do they perform on them. Ooh. And both of the solo laners being able to trade picks, that's one of the big key things here is the flexibility of those picks between Perkz and Wonder. Let's take a look at Perkz piloting the Aatrox here in the mid lane. He was just styling on kids.
And it's not just the flexibility, it's the mechanical ceiling of both Perkz and Wonder. You just look at the top side of the map from G2, and this roster is a dream come true. That's Wonder, Jankos, and Perkz. The ceiling that these guys individually have is incredible, and Perkz showed why you just can't give him a free power pick like Aatrox.
Yeah, let's just enjoy what Perkz was able to do after he picked up the first 2 kills. So this one was a little bit of a gift.
Yep.
But when he did get the first item, Ghost Blade, soon to be a Black Cleaver, then 40% CDR very early. He was just completely styling on RNG, who after KT's exits earlier today became the de facto favorite of Worlds, and Perkz was just doing this to him.
It felt to me like after the draft, the RNG coach, he was very proud because he managed to get Galio versus Ryze in the mid lane and Poppy versus Aatrox top lanes. He was like, these lanes we should be able to hold. G2 will not get a massive lead in these solo laners. But then when it's at 21 seconds on the clock, swap, and suddenly the coach look at the draft and go like,
surprise.
oh my God, no, what happened here?
I regret it.
I lost.
Can I use my one redo, please?
But the thing is that RNG have been able to play mixed lanes all season long. They could have easily just swapped lanes. Xiaohu has played bottom, he has played top, he has played mid. So it's not like they couldn't just, you know, walk it to their correct matchups.
Or try and let the solo laners actually pick something that could match in the early game with G2 doing. Because Aatrox right now, especially in mid lane, doesn't just from level 1 start winning. He needs a bit of time. You can actually play against it.
Now, before we get to the series decider, let's take a look at a few more Perkz clips as he is our MasterCard player of the game. We saw the early kills picked up. Now let's see what he did with them.
Oh, that's impressive.
Solid play, solid play.
So this one was really sick. I thought he was gonna die, and Kaz like, haha, I got you now. But then Perkz like, okay, I'm in my
He does all of this from like 400 health.
And then he goes ham. There you go, flash in, smack him with the Q, he goes down, and then the Tahm Kench shows up to make sure Perkz doesn't die. And this is what G2 can always do with these kind of comps. They are so good at reacting to the fights whenever one of the solo laners makes a big play.
Big plays out of Perkz to secure the second victory for G2 and push us to that 5th game. But that's where the discussion is now.
Yeah.
Game 5, RNG, back to blue side. No surprises there. The other important note, MLXG is coming back in. Now, this is the change they made. You want the panic button? Don't worry, we saved it. Panic all you want. There it is. Now, remember, this is the change that RNG made at the end of their 2nd round robin, and that's where they started picking up their wins, kind of going back to some of that more aggressive style. But how do we feel about it in a best-of-5 deciding match?
Well, it does answer that one question for us. We were like, okay, so RNG tried to play the lane phase, that gets blown out. They go to team fight phase, that gets blown out. For whatever reason, back to lane phase. But now when it comes push to shove, that's the final form. It's MLXG, the final boss of RNG.
Right. So the blue side is the bigger deal for me than MLXG playing, obviously, but I would probably just kept Kaz. I felt like whenever he played blue side, he was really good. But they might have said MLXG had 4 games backstage. He's figured something out. He's noticed a few trends.
Maybe he wants to ban Tahm Kench.
No, well, hopefully. I actually think it might be the Nocturne pick. MLXG's big pick over Karsa has been Nocturne, and right now Nocturne is falling through these drafts a lot. That was the first time, I believe, that G2 finally grabbed hold of it, and it was banned in game 2, I believe.
Yeah, I need to see RNG ban Heimer, Kali, and Tahm Kench. I mean, they might be out of Worlds if they don't do those 3 bans. And beyond that, the concern I have for RNG is that MLXG gives a certain level of randomness to the game that that if G2 hard commits to a 1-3-1, that Jankos could have a good game. And when Jankos has those good games, G2 could actually take it.
So that's kind of the thing also for me with MLXG. I don't think you need the randomness from him because on blue side, you've looked really, really good.
Yeah, I think Karsa should be in, personally.
I mean, they made the change now. I still think if you are RNG, draft a teamfight composition with some scaling and ban away the picks Jad already mentioned.
So here's what I'm going to do for you guys. I'm going to do you a favor.
Oh,
it's been a crazy day. It's been a crazy day. We saw KT get upset. We're now in a 5th game here between RNG and G2. So I'm going to give you the option. I'm going to give you that little do-over that I know you analysts love so much. Down the line, you are allowed to change your predictions here in Game 5. Who takes it, RNG or G2?
You are literally asking us to bet if RNG will ban Tom Kench.
I will take
They will on blue side. They've done it on blue side.
Sounds like a fair bet.
3-2 victory day.
All right. Jap's going with an RNG
Tom Kench ban.
With a Tom Kench ban, with a side of Tom Kench.
I know the side selection is not in my favor, but at this point, I'm going G2.
Yeah!
Draft a 1-3-1 comp with some counter picks for solo laners, and RNG are tilted.
All right, Frost, what are you thinking? We got a double LPL semifinal, or does G2 complete the upset day?
Let's go G2. Let's just decide that even if they ban the Tom Kench, that this time around it won't be a Cassiopeia, it'll be an Aurelia. RNG are letting everything fall through the draft phase. Just play it, G2. Just play your style.
Oh, I am a happy host on this day, my friends. With the semifinal spot on the line, G2 and RNG is coming down to 1 game. Game 5 is coming up right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
Shove comes in. Here comes a Paranoia. The first target is Shahu. First blood picked up by Perks.
I'll go around. Oh, that's my HP. Look, he's there.
Oh my god, how good am I?
No flash.
But it may not be enough. Perks may get the first death up. Whoa, he turns it back around on the Corsa in a 1v3.
Help us, help me. Click me.
Come on.
Here, no. Whoa! Kill him in Ash. Help him.
Nexus is going down. And ladies and gentlemen, this is going all the way. Do you